Sophie Cunningham has finally broken her silence, and the entire WNBA is buzzing. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Her Hoops, where we break down the drama, the money, the power plays, and all the behind-the-scenes chaos shaping women's basketball. And today we've got a bombshell, because Sophie Cunningham, one of the most outspoken, unfiltered voices in the league, just reacted to the massive $50 million Project B deal.
So we know Project B is the hottest thing going right now for all of women's basketball. It ain't no secret. Everybody know the Saudis back behind it, allegedly. Everybody know they throwing big boy money around. They ain't playing no games. Well, guess what? We have the first Indiana Fever talking about this, and this is Sophie Cunningham. Now, Sophie Cunningham trying to play like she don't know what's going on and stuff like that with the Project B.
And her answer wasn't just surprising, it was a warning shot, a message to the WNBA, a signal to every player in the league. And trust me, this isn't one of those, "oh, we'll see what happens" type responses. Nah, this is Sophie Cunningham basically saying the quiet part out loud, and doing it at a moment when the WNBA can least afford to look shaky, because right now, the WNBA is in the middle of the most tense, unpredictable offseason in years. The CBA is hanging by a thread.
I gotta be honest with you. We finna jump right into this, man. So we gonna read what Sophie said first before we go over this actual article. Now, Front Office Sports released an article about an hour ago. This stuff is brand new, and they asked Sophie Cunningham about this Project B. Goes on to say, Birdie tweeted out, shout out to you, Birdie. Sophie Cunningham on the CBA and potential lockout and on Project B. One of the things that opened us up because of the W's inability to pay players.
A potential lockout is looming. Free agency is about to explode. And while all that is happening, a brand new Saudi-backed Super League, Project B, is dropping multi-million-dollar offers on the table like it's pocket change. Offers big enough to make even all-stars pause. Big enough to make owners sweat. Big enough to make the entire league wonder, can we compete with this? And when Front Office Sports asked Sophie about Project B, she didn't dodge. She didn't deliver a polished PR answer.
But I also know how social media goes. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But you know, if people are going to be paying you multi-million-dollar deals, why would you not? That last part, why would you not? Sophie. Now, this is the actual article. Let's see who wrote. I bet you Annie wrote this. Annie Constable, I knew it.
She didn't pretend she hadn't heard the rumors. She said the 6 words that sent chills through front offices across the WNBA. If people are paying multi-million dollars, why would you not? That, right there, that's the spark, the fault line, the pressure point that could change everything. The league, the players, and the future of women's basketball as we know it. Because if Sophie is saying that publicly, imagine what players are saying privately. And you already know, here at Her Hoops, we're diving all the way in.
Sophie Cunningham isn't sure the WNBA will exist next year. Wow. Free agent guard Sophie Cunningham has become well known for her candor, whether it's on the court, in the face of opportunities, or dishing out hot takes on her podcast, Show Me Something. Cunningham has earned a reputation of WNBA's most unbiased. Cunningham was traded to the Fever, which we don't need to go over all that.
Before we break down Sophie's comments, you need to understand the battlefield she's standing on, because this isn't just about one player reacting to one question. This is about the collision course the WNBA is suddenly on, and why Project B has the entire basketball world watching with their jaws on the floor. See, for decades, the WNBA has operated inside a tight financial box. Salary caps, supermax limits, restricted movement. Players have always known there's a ceiling.
And her thoughts on Project B, she said, honestly, I think the missing piece is being healthy. I think that's the name of the game. And even when we're not healthy, we were a couple calls away from making it to the finals. So for us, I think just the amount of adversity that we had through that we went through this past year, she basically said that she went through a lot this past year.
A very real, very unbreakable ceiling. Even the biggest stars, the household names, the faces of the league, they're pulling in a few $100,000 during the season. Most of their real income comes from overseas. That's the way it's been. That's the way it's always been. Until now. Because Project B walked in and flipped the table. No negotiation, no baby steps. They came in with oil money scale. They came in with NBA salaries on day one energy. They came in with offers that don't sound real. Multi-million, multi-year, guaranteed. Money that dwarfs not just WNBA contracts, but also what some players get overseas. And here's the wild part. This isn't hypothetical. They're not talking about launching someday. They're already targeting players, already building rosters, already lining up broadcasts, already preparing to run a year-round basketball schedule that stacks cash on cash on cash. Meanwhile, the WNBA is stuck in CBA negotiations, locked into a timeline, pressured by expansion, facing free agency insanity, and still trying to hold things together long enough to avoid a lockout. So when Sophie Cunningham, a veteran, a straight shooter, a player who sees the bigger picture, says she's paying attention, believe her. When she says social media is buzzing, she sees the buzz. When she says if they're offering millions, why would you not? She's not just talking to fans. She's talking to every player watching this unfold. Because the truth is simple. For the first time ever, WNBA players have leverage. Real leverage. Life-changing leverage. And Project B knows exactly what they're doing. Alright, now let's break down exactly what Sophie Cunningham said, why it hit so hard, and what it secretly reveals about the state of the WNBA. Because on the surface, her answer sounded casual, light, maybe even a little playful. But when you peel back the layers, Sophie dropped a nuclear truth bomb. Here's the core exchange. Front Office Sports asked her directly about Project B, if she'd consider joining, if the money changes things, if the WNBA's financial ceiling is becoming a problem. And Sophie, instead of towing the league-safe line, instead of deflecting like most players, came out with, "If people are paying you multi-million-dollar deals, why would you not?" Let's pause right there. That is not a throwaway comment. That is not a neutral answer. That is a player, a respected veteran, openly acknowledging that the WNBA cannot match what's coming. And players know it. Then she doubles down with something even heavier. She admits she doesn't know what the WNBA is going to look like next year. That's not shade. That's not drama. That's not gossip. That's a player admitting uncertainty about the existence of the league's stability heading into 2025. And it's because of one thing. The CBA is a ticking time bomb. Players want higher salaries, better revenue sharing, stronger protections, improved travel, a real path to year-round earnings. Owners want to spend as little as possible while holding on to complete control. So now, with Project B offering multi-million-dollar deals, players suddenly have a bargaining chip players have never had. If you don't pay us, someone else will. And when Sophie mentions how other leagues are popping up, she's talking about the seismic shift happening right now. Unrivaled overseas leagues and now Project B all competing for talent. But Project B is the apex predator, the one with the deepest pockets, the one that can afford to overpay without blinking. And Sophie knows that, and the WNBA knows she knows that. And that is why her comment echoed across the league like a warning siren. Here's where everything starts heating up, because Sophie Cunningham didn't just give an honest answer. She exposed the exact pressure cracks forming inside the WNBA right now. And the wild part? She didn't even have to try. The truth is bubbling up on its own. Let's start with the obvious. Players are frustrated. Frustrated with the salaries, frustrated with the travel, frustrated with the limitations the league places on their earning power, frustrated that the best players in the world have to fly commercial and hit off-season leagues just to make real money. And then, out of nowhere, Project B shows up like a billionaire genie granting wishes. But here's the twist. Project B isn't just offering money, they're offering freedom. Freedom to earn year-round, freedom to skip overseas grind, freedom to actually build wealth during their careers, not after them. So when Sophie Cunningham says the WNBA might not exist next year, she's not predicting doom. She's highlighting the stakes, the urgency, the reality that the league must evolve or get left behind. But the escalation gets even deeper, because Sophie didn't just talk Project B, she exposed the tension around the CBA negotiations too. She dodged multiple questions about whether she's returning to the Fever, what the players want, what the owners are offering, how far apart the sides are. She dodged them on purpose, because there's a silent war happening behind the scenes. Players know the offers aren't enough. Owners know the players want more than they're willing to give, and both sides know time is running out. And the media? They're poking the fire every chance they get. Reporters like Annie are asking pointed questions. She's asking players if they're staying, if they're leaving, if they trust the league, and Sophie's reaction shows just how tense things are. Meanwhile, certain media figures want to label tough questions as rage bait, even though that's literally their job. Sophie handled it like a pro, but her responses said everything without saying it outright. Here's the escalation in one sentence. The WNBA is trying to negotiate its future at the exact same time another league is offering players the kind of life-changing money the WNBA simply cannot match. And players like Sophie are caught right in the middle of the storm. Now let's dig deeper. Not into the headlines, not into the quotes, but into the real mechanics behind why Sophie's comments hit the league like a shockwave. Because on paper, it looks simple. Project B is offering money. Players want money. End of story, right? Wrong. This is about power, control, and the first true shift in the women's basketball economy in decades. Let's start with Sophie herself. Sophie Cunningham is not a fringe player. She's not a rookie. She's not someone who needs the league's approval to survive. She's a veteran with a reputation for being brutally honest. She has her own platform, she has influence, and she has absolutely no problem saying what other players are too nervous to put on record. So when she speaks, players listen. Front offices listen. The league office listens. And what she said between the lines is louder than anything she said directly. We finally have options. Let's break that down. 1. The CBA is the weak point. The WNBA is walking into a negotiation with a salary cap. Players hate. Revenue structures. Players want reworked. A travel system. Players are fed up with. An off-season pipeline that's burning players out, and 90% of veterans headed into free agency. The owners have almost zero leverage. The players have more leverage than ever. 2. Project B is the leverage. A league offering $1 million to $5 million contracts, private travel, year-round salaries, global media backing, zero salary caps. A chance to become international stars is not competition. It's a revolution. Players don't have to take the deal, they just have to threaten to. And Sophie knows it. 3. The WNBA is under pressure from all sides. Expansion drafts, roster instability, super teams potentially breaking up, owners arguing behind closed doors, players preparing for a potential lockout. And now, a Saudi-backed league is hovering overhead like a financial hurricane. 4. Sophie's "Why would you not?" isn't about her. It's about the mid-tier players, the bench players, the role players. You know, the players who make $70,000 to $130,000 and grind overseas 8 months of the year to survive. Project B offering them $800,000 to $2 million. That's not a choice. That's salvation. Sophie said what every player is thinking. If someone finally respects our value, why wouldn't we take it? This isn't just commentary, this is a mirror held up to the entire league. Now let's zoom out, because Sophie Cunningham's comments aren't just about her, the Fever, or even the 2025 season. This moment is about the future of women's basketball on a global scale. And what's happening right now is bigger than any one league, any one player, or any one negotiation. We are witnessing the first true power shift in women's basketball history. For 27 years, the WNBA has been the center of the universe, the pinnacle, the destination, the highest platform. Overseas leagues supplemented players' income, but the WNBA was always home. It had the prestige, the media, the brand, the recognition. But now, that gravitational pull is weakening. Project B changes everything, not because it's new, not because it's flashy, but because it's financially unstoppable. Money rewrites loyalty. Money reshapes culture. Money changes what the dream looks like. If Project B is offering $1 million plus to mid-tier players, imagine what they'll offer the superstars. Imagine what they'll offer rookies coming out of college. Imagine the bidding wars. Imagine the global attention. Suddenly, the WNBA is no longer the only path. It's just one of the paths. And this comes at the worst possible time for the league. A potential lockout is looming. Expansion drafts are coming. Veteran free agency is about to explode. Major stars are in contract limbo. Teams don't know what the salary cap will be. Owners don't know what they can promise players. And while the WNBA is stuck juggling logistics and politics, Project B is simply writing checks. This is why Sophie's comments matter. She's not just answering a reporter's question. She's speaking for an entire generation of players who are tired of sacrificing, tired of waiting, tired of being told, "Not yet." When she says, "Why would you not?" she's pointing directly at the WNBA's biggest fear. Players are finally realizing their value, and someone else is finally willing to pay for it. And if enough players jump, everything changes. Broadcast deals, schedules, marketing strategies, team budgets, player movement, the entire ecosystem of women's basketball shifts overnight. The WNBA has spent years asking the world to take women's basketball seriously. Project B is doing exactly that, but with a checkbook instead of a slogan. And if the WNBA can't match the energy, then Sophie's warning becomes prophecy. So now we've arrived at the moment nobody in the WNBA wants to admit publicly, but everyone behind the scenes is whispering. Sophie Cunningham didn't just comment on Project B. She exposed the future. Because here's the truth, a truth the league has tried to outrun for years. You cannot ask players to give everything, while giving them the bare minimum in return. You can't expect loyalty while offering limited salaries. You can't demand sacrifice while offering commercial flights. You can't promise growth while locking them into outdated revenue structures. You can't talk about the long-term vision while another league is offering life-changing money today. And Sophie, blunt, fearless, honest Sophie, said exactly what millions of fans have been screaming. If someone is offering you millions, why wouldn't you take it? That one line is bigger than her, bigger than the fever, bigger than a single off-season interview. That line is the crack in the system. Because if one respected veteran says it publicly, imagine what dozens are saying privately. Imagine the conversations happening in group chats. Imagine the calls between agents. Imagine the whispers between teammates after practice. Imagine the questions rookies are quietly asking their vets. Suddenly, the WNBA isn't just negotiating a CBA, they're negotiating to keep their own league intact. And here's the part fans need to understand. Players don't want to leave the WNBA. They want the league to rise. They want the league to evolve. They want a system that respects their value, their workload, their talent, their bodies, and their time. But loyalty has a limit. And when a brand new global league is offering contracts that are 5, 10, 20 times higher than what the WNBA can match, that limit gets tested. Project B isn't just competition, it's a wake-up call. A wake-up call for, owners, the commissioner, front offices, media, and every fan invested in the future of the league. Because if the WNBA doesn't step up now, not tomorrow, not in a few years, not when the revenue grows, but right now, then Sophie Cunningham's 6-word moment becomes the turning point. Why would you not? Why would you not chase security? Why would you not choose financial freedom? Why would you not pick the league that treats you like a star? Why would you not go where you're valued? And that's why her comments matter. That's why the league is on edge. That's why fans are watching closely. Because if the WNBA doesn't rise to this challenge, Project B won't just compete, it will take over. And every player, from rookies to veterans, will have to answer Sophie Cunningham's question for themselves. If someone finally pays you what you're worth, why would you not? Thanks for watching Her Hoops. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and turn those notifications on. Because this off-season is about to get wild, and we're covering every twist, every leak, and every shockwave. Until next time, stay locked in, and keep your eyes on the future of the game.